For thousands of years, the Galactic Union had known peace, maintained by rules, technology, and powerful alliances. Planets with dangerous tech were watched. Civilizations that evolved too fast were quietly handled. So when the deep space satellites picked up a strange signal from a small blue planet in the Sol system, alarms were triggered instantly. Earth, classified as a pre-hyperdrive, low-priority planet, had suddenly transmitted something impossible. Not a message, not a warning, a pulse, a kind of energy signature that hadn't been seen in centuries. And worse, it matched the ancient codes of the legendary Reality Shaper, a myth from before the Union even existed. The Council gathered in a floating citadel orbiting the gas giant Kalos Prime. Dozens of species, tall, short, scaled, furred, mechanical, sat in a giant circular hall. Holographic screens floated in the center, showing the signal over and over again. No one spoke at first. The pulse was too perfect, too powerful, and it had come from Earth, a planet barely crawling toward interstellar flight, with species still fighting over food and memes. "This has to be a mistake," said Varn, a cold-blooded strategy master from the Zexari Empire. "Humans are chaotic, but not capable of this. They are not to be underestimated," whispered a tall crystalline being named Rilan. "They advanced from combustion engines to fusion reactors in less than 150 years. Their growth rate defies logic. And they worship randomness." The representative from the Kalari hive, a six-eyed insectoid creature, clicked nervously. The signal was sent from a specific point, a small house near the edge of their North America zone. Coordinates: Florida. The room went silent. Even the AI advisors paused. "Florida," someone whispered. "Not that zone." "Yes, the anomaly is located there, and according to the scans, the source is a human male. Mid-20s, no military record, no scientific background, no rank, no known cyber enhancements. He is currently listed as unemployed." "Impossible," Varn hissed. But the data didn't lie. The pulse had come from that exact location, from one specific individual. The Grand Speaker, a floating orb of light and memory, finally spoke. "This planet, Earth, it must be investigated. Quietly. We do not want to alarm them. If the Reality Shaper technology has awakened there, the balance of power could collapse." A mission was formed within the hour. A first contact team was chosen, elite scouts trained for peaceful infiltration, with emergency protocols in case of planetary destruction. They would observe, blend in, and if the human turned out to be dangerous, they were allowed to eliminate the threat without notice. Their ship, sleek and invisible to primitive sensors, entered Earth's orbit 36 hours later. Hidden above the cloud layer, they launched a small pod toward the human's location. It landed softly in the trees behind a white house with a broken mailbox and a flamingo statue in the yard. Inside the ship, the team watched the human from above using cloaked drones. He was wearing shorts, a t-shirt, and flip-flops. He held a cold drink in one hand and was talking to a small box attached to a speaker. "Yo, Chad," he said to himself, grinning. "The new Wi-Fi router is lit. Whatever you did, bro, the signal is off the charts." The alien team looked at one another, confused. What was a Wi-Fi router? What was lit? The lead scout, Commander Turin, blinked. "Is this the weapon?" "It cannot be," said the data analyst, adjusting his translator implant. "He appears unintelligent. He refers to himself in third person and speaks in fragments." But again, the scans were clear. The energy signature, the same one that had triggered galactic panic, was still radiating from this area. It came from the human's device, but also from him. His body had absorbed some of it. His brain was different. "Run another bioscan," Turin ordered. The result came back in seconds. The human's neural patterns showed strange harmony between logic and chaos. He had no implants, no enhancements, and yet his thoughts moved through dimensions in ways the AI couldn't predict. Every test they ran failed to measure him properly. "'Tis like he doesn't follow rules," whispered one of the scouts. The team stared in silence as Chad walked into his backyard, still holding his drink, still in flip-flops, and talked to a small animal, a lizard. "You ever just feel like the universe is watching you, bro? Like you're in a video game?" The alien team flinched. Was he aware of them? Had he detected their presence? Then Chad laughed and tossed the lizard a piece of pizza crust. "Whatever. I'm gonna take a nap." Back on the ship, Commander Turin stood up. "We have to report this. He might be unaware of his power, or hiding it. Either way, he is too dangerous to ignore." They sent an encrypted burst to the Galactic Union. In it were recordings, energy readings, and a short note. Subject: human male, Earth species. Location: Sector 4D, Sol 3, Florida. Threat level: unknown/unstable. Observation: entity may be reality sensitive or completely unhinged. Request: further instruction before contact. Note: subject wears flip-flops at all times. In the deep void of space, hundreds of ships began moving. Empires that hadn't spoken in centuries started sharing data. War machines were activated. Sleeper agents on Earth received coded messages, all of them asking the same question: what did Earth create? But Chad was already asleep, lying in a hammock, snoring gently, completely unaware that a dozen star systems were preparing for a potential apocalypse because of him. And above his house, hidden in orbit, the alien team watched the human with growing confusion. Was this man a genius hiding behind foolishness? Or had Earth somehow created the most powerful being in the galaxy by complete accident? The only thing they knew for sure was that nothing made sense anymore. The alien team's cloaked ship hovered silently over the small town of Clearwater, Florida. For hours, they had observed Earth, analyzing data, scanning frequencies, and trying to make sense of the signal that had sent the entire galaxy into a frenzy. Their mission was clear: find the source of the mysterious pulse, assess the threat, and, if necessary, eliminate it before Earth's power could spread further. But nothing made sense. Every scan, every observation, only deepened the mystery. They had seen this before: well-organized weapons programs, secret projects, advanced technology. But this wasn't anything like that. "Prepare to land," Commander Turin ordered, his voice calm but filled with an edge of confusion. "We need to see this with our own eyes." The small craft descended gently through the clouds, landing on the outskirts of the town. The locals were completely unaware of the massive alien presence hovering overhead, as the ship's cloaking technology kept it hidden from their primitive sensors. Inside the ship, the crew was preparing for their first official contact with a species they had long underestimated. The strange human, Chad, was the key. But what kind of key was he? No one knew. Turin stood, adjusting his black uniform, designed to blend into the Earth environment, and looked at the rest of the team. "Remember, we do this by the book. Observe first. Contact only if necessary." But as the hatch opened, the team's leader was struck by the heat. The air was thick with humidity. Sweat instantly formed on his brow. The strange atmosphere of Earth, the smell of salt water and vegetation, was overpowering. His species was used to cold, sterile environments. This planet's tropical climate was almost unbearable. "Too hot," whispered Kaweri, a reptilian scout from the Inzater race. He fanned himself with a piece of tech, but it was futile. "And too odd." Turin nodded. "Yes, but the mission comes first. Keep your focus." They stepped out, landing softly on the grass. The sun hung lazily in the sky, and the sounds of distant waves crashing against the shore could be heard. They moved quickly, blending in with the surroundings, approaching the house where Chad was supposed to be. From their hidden vantage point, The alien team could see the backyard. There he was, Chad. The human was sitting in a hammock, wearing flip-flops, sipping from a plastic cup filled with a bright blue liquid. His unkempt hair was tousled by the breeze, and his t-shirt had a logo that made no sense to anyone. "I'm here for the barbecue." "Is this the weapon?" Query asked, a note of disbelief in his voice. "Focus," Tren said sharply. "We observe first." As they continued to watch, Chad casually stood up, stretched, and scratched his belly. "Ah, man, this heat's killing me. Gotta grab some sunscreen." The team's lead analyst, Zora, adjusted her scanning equipment. "The energy signature is coming from him. It's subtle, but it's there." They watched as Chad walked to a small wooden table and picked up a strange device. It looked like a box with glowing buttons, and as soon as he touched it, the energy readings spiked. The scanner went haywire. "Did you see that?" Zora's voice crackled through the comms. "His skin is absorbing the energy. He's becoming part of it." Tren frowned, trying to make sense of it. "I don't know what's happening, but we need answers." The human, Chad, turned around and smiled, as if sensing their presence, though he couldn't see them. "All right, who's spying on me now?" he said, glancing up at the sky. "Is it the aliens again? You guys are really bad at this whole stealth thing." The team froze, their hearts racing. He could sense them. Before they could react, Chad waved his hand in the air. "Oh, whatever. Guess I'll just go to the beach then." "Is he aware of us?" Query asked, his voice filled with alarm. "No," Tren replied, though he didn't sound convinced. "He's just joking. He doesn't know we're here." But the strange energy signature intensified. It pulsed, almost like it was reacting to their thoughts. Chad tossed his drink onto the ground and grabbed a pair of sunglasses. "Hey, lizard guys," he said loudly, as if addressing someone. "Hope you brought sunscreen too. It's like a sauna out here." The alien team glanced at each other. Had they miscalculated? Had they underestimated the human? "Something is wrong," Zora said. "He's not just reacting to our presence. It's like he's controlling it." "But with what?" "Prepare for contact," Tren ordered, despite the confusion and hesitation that gnawed at him. "I'll approach him. The rest of you stay back. Keep monitoring. We need to understand how he's linked to the pulse." The team moved closer, staying hidden in the shadows. As Tren walked forward, his boots crunching the grass, he wondered what he was about to uncover. The pulse that had originated from Earth, it wasn't from a weapon. It wasn't even from technology. It came from him. But why? How? When Tren was only a few meters from the human, Chad suddenly turned and waved directly at him. "Hey, you," he called out, pointing. "You're really bad at this sneaking around thing, buddy." Tren froze. How could he possibly have noticed him? Chad smirked. "What, you think I don't know when I'm being watched? Come on, I'm not that dumb." There was no fear in Chad's voice. No panic. He simply seemed amused. The team leader's mind raced. They had expected a struggle. They had expected a confrontation. But this was something entirely different. Chad was completely relaxed, so relaxed that it made Tren uncomfortable. Then, without another word, Chad turned back to his hammock. "Anyway, I'll see you guys around. I'm just gonna nap before the party tonight. It's been a long day." Tren stood still, stunned. Did he really just ignore us? "Sir," Zora's voice came through his earpiece. "What should we do now?" The alien leader took a deep breath, his mind spinning with questions. "We continue as planned. Observe him carefully. But we're dealing with something. Something we haven't encountered before. A weapon, or just a fool. I can't tell." In the distance, Chad stretched and yawned, completely unaware of the impending galactic war that had already begun because of him. Chad didn't seem bothered at all. As the alien team stood frozen in the shadows, watching him, he casually reached down, picked up a frisbee, and tossed it to a passing dog. The dog caught it midair, running off toward the ocean, as if this was the most normal thing in the universe. Turin's mind was racing. There was no way this could be happening. The Galactic Council had sent them here to deal with a potential reality shaper, the kind of being capable of warping space-time itself. And here they were, watching a human who looked like he hadn't left his backyard in years, playing with a dog. Is this some kind of test? Query, the Invader scout hissed. He's mocking us, isn't he? No, Turin said quietly. I don't think so. There's something else going on here. Something we don't understand. As they continued to watch from their concealed position, Chad stood up from his hammock, stretching lazily. All right, that's enough sun for today, he said aloud, as if the whole world was his to command. I'm gonna go mess with my Wi-Fi again. What? Zora's voice came through Turin's earpiece, her voice laced with disbelief. He's just... What? He's casually talking about the Wi-Fi. We're here to deal with an ancient weapon of unimaginable power, and this human is worried about his internet. Turin could hear the frustration building in Zora's voice, but he couldn't find the right words to explain what he was feeling. This didn't make sense. The scans they'd taken of Chad's neural patterns had shown that he wasn't just some ordinary human. His brainwaves, his energy readings, they were off the charts. But everything about his actions said he was just another goofy earthling, completely oblivious to the galactic storm he had just kicked off. I'll go to him, Turin said, the decision coming to him with a certainty he couldn't explain. We have to know for sure. Maybe he does know something, and he's hiding it under that ridiculous sense of humor. As Turin walked toward Chad's house, his mind was full of questions. What kind of being could casually handle this kind of power? What kind of weapon could be so seamlessly hidden in plain sight? Was this human truly the source of the strange energy readings, or had someone, been manipulating him? When he arrived at the backyard, Chad was sitting on the porch, now holding a strange device in his hands. It looked like a handheld controller, but with a series of strange symbols etched into it. Chad looked up and once again waved directly at Turin. Hey, you finally decided to join me. Chad grinned, clearly unfazed by the fact that an alien warrior was standing before him. I was just thinking about some of these new game updates. You'd think they'd make the controls easier, right? I mean, come on, who thought this was a good idea? Turin hesitated. Was Chad really so completely unaware of the situation? The team had scanned his body, and the results had been clear. This human was emitting a kind of energy signature that no one could explain. Yet here he was, acting like this was just another normal day. How are you? Turin's voice faltered. How are you doing this? Chad looked at him blankly. Doing what? I'm just having a good day. You should try it sometime. Turin stared at him, trying to process the absurdity of the situation. He didn't know how to answer. The reality of it was starting to sink in. This human, this Chad, wasn't just unaware of his power. He was unaware of the universe itself. I'm not sure I understand, Turin said slowly, taking a step closer. You have something inside of you, an energy, power, something the likes of which no one in the galaxy has ever seen. Yet you act as if it's nothing. Chad blinked, clearly thinking, oh, that. Yeah, I think I get it now. You guys are here because of that weird signal, right? The one that's been going off for, like, a week. Dude, I just thought it was my new router. It has amazing range. You wouldn't believe it. Turin froze. Your router? Yeah, man. It's got this super boost. I've been testing it out. Pretty sweet, right? Chad waved the controller around. It's supposed to give you an edge in, like all kinds of things, but I'm still figuring out how it works. You know, getting the perfect frequency. Turin's mind reeled. The source of the pulse, the energy that had sent shockwaves through the galaxy, was coming from a Wi-Fi router. The ground beneath his feet seemed to shift as the weight of what he was hearing sank in. No, it couldn't be. This had to be some sort of misunderstanding. You created this? Turin asked, barely able to get the words out. Chad just shrugged. I mean, I don't know if I created it. I just kinda plugged it in, followed the instructions, and boom. But hey, I think I found something even cooler than Wi-Fi. Dude, cooler than Wi-Fi? Turin repeated, his voice tinged with disbelief. What could possibly be cooler than Wi-Fi? What kind of tech are you talking about? Chad grinned. I think I might have figured out how to, open portals. Or, like, bend space-time. Not totally sure, but it seems to work. Turin's heart skipped a beat. Portals. Space-time. Without another word, Chad pressed a button on his strange controller. The air around them shimmered. The fabric of reality twisted for a moment. And then, just like that, the backyard seemed to stretch, bending and twisting as though the very universe had decided to fold. A small, flickering portal appeared in the air before them. The alien team, watching from the shadows, was horrified. What they were seeing was impossible. Turin took another step toward Chad, his boots crunching softly on the grass. Do you realize the significance of what you're doing? He asked again, this time his tone more forceful. What you have is beyond anything any civilization has ever created. You cold. I know, Chad interrupted, sounding almost bored. Look, I don't really have time for lectures, okay? I'm trying to get this whole portal thing down. Besides, it's not like I'm some kind of genius or anything. I'm just a dude who's trying to figure out how to get around town faster. Not exactly world-ending stuff. Turin couldn't decide whether to be furious or just outright confused. Was Chad truly this oblivious? Or was this all part of some bigger plan? He couldn't tell. All he knew for sure was that whatever Chad was, he wasn't normal. The energy radiating from him, the way his very presence seemed to warp reality. It was unlike anything Turin had ever encountered. A thought struck Turin like a lightning bolt. Could it be possible that Chad wasn't even aware of the extent of his powers? What if these abilities were not intentionally controlled but simply an inherent part of his being, an unconscious reaction to the world around him? The thought was terrifying. If Chad was unaware of the full scope of his power, there was no telling what could happen if it went unchecked. Turin turned to his team, motioning for them to move into a tighter formation. We need to monitor him closely, he said in a low voice. Whatever he's doing it instinctively. We don't know if it's a power he can control or if it's something completely out of his reach, but we can't let this go unchecked. I agree, Zora replied, her voice filled with concern. If this human can open portals, create disturbances in space-time without even realizing it, the implications are enormous. We need to find out what's really going on before it's too late. Turin nodded grimly. The situation was spiraling out of control, and there were no easy answers. Chad was a wild card, unpredictable and dangerous, whether he realized it or not. The stakes had just been raised. This wasn't just about figuring out if Earth had a new weapon. This was about the future of the galaxy itself. If Chad could break the laws of reality at will, there was no telling how long it would take for the galaxy to fall into chaos. As Turin turned back to face Chad, he steeled himself for the inevitable confrontation. He didn't know if this human would be their ally or their greatest threat, but one thing was certain: they couldn't let this go on unchecked. You've already done something no one in the galaxy could ever imagine, Turin said, his voice steady but with a weight of finality. Now you need to understand the danger that comes with this kind of power. Chad blinked, still lounging on his hammock, as if nothing in the universe could faze him. Danger? Nah, man. I'm just trying to get some sleep. I'll deal with all the danger later, all right. Turin stood in the shadows, watching Chad from a distance. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the backyard. But Chad remained oblivious, lounging in his hammock and lazily flipping through what looked like a game controller. The sheer nonchalance of it all unsettled Turin. How could a being so powerful act as if he were on vacation? His mind was still racing with the implications of what he had witnessed. A human, a creature from a primitive world, untainted by the sophistication of galactic civilization. Yet here he was, wielding the kind of power that could tear the very fabric of reality itself. Portals, time distortion, space manipulation. It was madness. Turin turned to his team, who had gathered in a tight circle, their expressions grim. "We need to make a decision," Zora said quietly, her voice heavy with concern. "We've been monitoring him for days now. He's not even aware of the danger he's carrying." Wary's sharp eyes glinted with a mixture of fear and awe. "How can we stop something like that? Even if he's unaware of what he can do, it doesn't change the fact that he has the power to destroy everything. He could tear apart entire star systems without even realizing it." Turin took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. The decision ahead was the hardest he had ever faced. The future of the galaxy could hinge on it. He had come here to assess the situation, to determine whether Chad was a threat or just an anomaly. But the more he saw, the less he understood. "We can't just kill him," Turin said firmly. "He's not a weapon. He's a person, even if he doesn't understand his own power." "But what if he does understand it?" Query interjected. "What if this is all part of some grand scheme? What if he's just pretending to be clueless, and in reality, he's using us as pawns in his game?" "No," Turin said, shaking his head. "I don't believe that. Chad isn't a villain. He doesn't even know what he's capable of. He's a blank slate." A long silence hung in the air as the team processed his words. Each of them knew the stakes. If Chad's power continued to grow unchecked, there would be no way to predict what could happen. One accidental shift in space-time could lead to the collapse of entire star systems. But if they killed him now, they might never understand the full potential of his abilities. They might be condemning humanity to a future where they were never given the chance to evolve. "We don't know if he'll ever truly understand his power," Zora said cautiously, breaking the silence. "What if he's simply too dangerous to be allowed to live?" Turin hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing on him like a ton of bricks. There was no easy answer. The galaxy had already felt the ripple of Chad's power when the signal had first gone out. There was no telling how many more it would cause as his abilities continued to evolve. The Council had sent them to neutralize the threat, not to babysit a confused human. But he couldn't shake the thought of the last conversation he'd had with Chad. The human had no clue. He wasn't actively trying to destroy the universe. He wasn't even aware of the dangers he was courting. "I don't think he means any harm," Turin said quietly, his voice laced with uncertainty. "But we can't let this go on. We need to control it before it spirals out of control." "And how do you propose we do that?" Zora asked, her eyes narrowing. "He's already shown that he can break the laws of physics with a few clicks. He could shut us down with a thought." Turin turned back to Chad, who was still lounging on the hammock, idly scrolling through a tablet. The scene before him felt surreal. This was the man, or the being, or whatever Chad was now, who held the fate of the galaxy in his hands. And yet, he was as unaware of his own power as a child playing in a sandbox. "I think we need to help him understand," Turin said. "Help him control it." "You're suggesting we teach him?" Query's tone was incredulous. "You saw what happened with that portal. He's not interested in learning how to use this power. He's treating it like a joke. We can't just give up on him," Turin said, a rare conviction rising in his voice. "We don't have the right to just end his life because we're afraid of what he might do. We have to help him. Teach him how to control it. If he's to be a danger, then it's our responsibility to guide him, not destroy him." Zora and Query exchanged looks, clearly torn. Turin could see the hesitation in their eyes. They understood the gravity of the situation, but they were also pragmatic. The galaxy wasn't known for taking chances, especially not when the fate of entire worlds was at stake. "What happens if he refuses?" Zora asked, her voice quiet. Turin's eyes met hers. Then we'll have no choice, but we'll give him the chance to understand, the chance to decide for himself. There was a long pause as his team processed the decision. Finally, Query spoke, his voice low but resolute. I trust you, Turin. But if this goes wrong, we have to be prepared for the consequences. Turin nodded. I understand. We'll be careful, but we need to try. With a final glance at the team, Turin turned and walked toward Chad, his mind racing with the weight of the decision he had just made. This wasn't just about protecting the galaxy anymore. It was about offering Chad a chance at redemption, or at least a chance to understand what he had become. As he approached, Chad looked up, his face lighting up with that same carefree grin. Hey, you guys want to play some video games? I think I finally figured out how to make this thing work. Turin couldn't help but smile, though it was tinged with the heavy burden of his thoughts. We need to talk, Chad, he said, his voice serious but gentle, about what you can do and what that means for everyone. Chad raised an eyebrow, but nodded, as if accepting a simple invitation. Sure, man. What's up? Turin took a deep breath, bracing for the conversation that would change everything. The galaxy wasn't ready for what was coming, but perhaps with time, they would learn to live with it.